Have you ever took a journey to the other side? Come on, take a ride. Have you ever took a journey? We gon' feel alive.
Welcome to Breakfast with the Boys. I'm Tony the Thrill Hill. Totally enjoying you guys' audience, enjoying all your comments, enjoying everything that you guys are bringing to the table. We're going to have some fun today. It's going to be a little different. I don't have my son today, my ace boom coon guy that's always on the side with me. I'm going to roll with another one of my partners. So I just want to give you some heads up about that. FYI, the guy that I'm rolling with, we go back. I used to have a football team for my son. As a matter of fact, when he was 10 years old, he was out there, and I had nobody to work with. I was that single coach. I'm coaching football, basketball, baseball, but I needed somebody, a road dog, to help me out. And so I reached out to my boy. His daughter went to the same school as my son, and he played some ball. And so I reached out to him. I said, "Hey, man, you want to help me coach some football?" He said, "Yeah, I'll do it. No problem at all." I said, "Okay, hey, now understand this. He doesn't have a son on the team at all. No skins in this game at all. He's there with me for every practice, on time, all the time, just like our boy upstairs. When you ask about the man, he's there." So with that being said, on our podcast over here, the key things that we talk about, and I want to share that with you, is that we got Kurt McGurdy who brings our music to us, man. I mean, it's called a journey. And when I'm talking about, have you ever took a journey to the other side? I don't get paid for that. But that's Kurt McGurdy. But the other thing is that the guys that put this together for us, who put this together for us, Tyler and Doug, Murray over here with murraymedia.net, that's what makes it happen for us, So we have a blast, and that's what we enjoy doing that thing over there. So we're rocking and rolling. So going back again, and I'm that guy that digress all the time. I go here, I go there. But our thing is Breakfast with the Boys, and it's a smorgasbord. When you come here, you're going to eat everything, or you're going to try everything, or you're going to know there's a lot of food available for anything to take place. So going back to my boy who's going to be on my side over here, my boy helped me coach football. And the bottom line, we went to basketball. He coached my AAU team. We had Cole Beasley on the show before, prior to this show, and he was one of the coaches with Cole Beasley. And then when I talk about when I get out and do my thing, I also go, I like to travel. I like to have fun. So I went out to Turks and Caicos. Guess who's on my side? My boy over here. We went out to Jamaica. Guess who's on my side? I got my boy right here. Yeah. We go out to California. We're doing the Jazz Festival. We used to do the Long Beach Jazz Festival, Subaru Jazz Festival. But guess who's on my side? I'm bringing my boy right here. So I'm bringing him here live in this show to have some fun with us. And so with that being said, he's a Hall of Famer at Morgan State University. Yeah, Hall of Famer. So he's got some games. I'm not just bringing anybody on. He's got some games. Yeah. And so with that being said, I'm going to introduce my boy Art Cook so he can tell us about our guest for this afternoon, for this show today.
All right, Tony, you got me all pumped up, man. Hey, first of all, man, thanks for inviting me. I'm glad to be here. I was sitting in for Anthony. I've been knowing Anthony since he was a little boy, so these big shoes to try to fill, right? So we're going to do what we do today, right?
There you go. There you go.
We'll do what we do today. But actually, it's all about Larry today, right?
No, it's about us. We just chopping it up.
But you're the main guest, man. So we're going to rock with that, too, as well. We can talk about, we know your history, right? We know the Super Bowls, the 3 Super Bowls. We know the MVP, Super Bowl 30, the picks for the touchdowns. Seal the game. We know all that stuff. We know TCU, Horned Frogs. My son went to TCU.
Horned Frog. And back then, it wasn't. People didn't say too much about TCU. Now it's a little better now. These days are a lot better.
Yeah. When they played in the Fiesta Bowl back in against Boise State, my son was part of that team, right?
Yes.
So he's rocking that ring. So we always Horned Frogs.
Yes.
So that'll work, man. But I was looking at some of your stats, man. You had a nice career, brother. A lot of tackles. 14 interceptions. You played in 95 games. Over the Cowboys, then going to Oakland, then to Minnesota, then come back to the Cowboys.
Yeah. So it was a good ride. It went, it was bad, got good, then went back to bad. But it was a journey. It was a journey, and
right?
that is it. When you're younger, you don't realize that. When you're younger, most of us, you start playing. You're in your 20s. You don't know any better.
Right.
When you start getting 50 plus, you start thinking back. You realize that even your bad moments were good moments that you had a chance to experience it.
Yep. So one of my things is that always try to encounter, and that's what come to ask you about is, we know what it's like, that football life, right? You know, was something we always did all of our lives, right? Going to practice, in meetings, you know, game day, getting prepared for game day. Then once that's over, then it's the other part. That's the life part, right? How you engage in that part daily? How you engage that new life segment of your life now?
And also, though, LB, I mean, so I know Art going through the spiel talking about how good your stuff is, but let the people know who you are. Who we got over here? What's that guy's name over there? Tell them what we got.
Larry Brown.
Go ahead. They got to know we got Larry Brown on the house over here. You know, hey.
MVP of Super Bowl 30, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say for me, it was my transition was fairly easier. I'm not gonna say easy, but easier. I was young. I got married at 23. Okay. Obviously, coming to the Cowboys, and I'm not just saying this because he's sitting here with guys like Tony, Drew, and those guys that kind of mentored the young guys, took them in. You don't see that in every organization. So with being married and kind of having like a big brother with Tony and those guys, it helped make that transition of what it meant to be a professional, your family, and those things. It made it easier. Right. Now, obviously, you're still young. You're going to make mistakes because you're young. But I can say for sure with that guidance and having got married young, it made my transition a lot easier.
So, you know, we talking, and we talking ball over here, but again, I want our people, we know a little bit about Larry Brown being that football player. Mm-hmm. We're going to talk about that because, you know, we got to talk about that Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. I got to find out what kind of scholarship you giving Neil O'Donnell for his son. Because I know you're paying something for those two interceptions you get. I mean, I know there's something on the line. Hey, you know, we're going to try to find out what optometrist he had because, you know, he
was right to him, right?
He had to close his eyes when he threw the ball over.
You got to catch him. You got to catch him. You still got to catch him. You still got to catch him.
We got to find out what's happening. But before we go there, though, hey, let's talk about, you know, I'm from the beach. I'm from Long Beach, right. You know, and you grew up in Los Angeles. Now, tell me a little bit about your childhood. Give us a little bit of insight.
That's a great question. I was born in Miami. I think we moved to Los Angeles when I was 2 years old. So I spent all of my schooling, my whole life was there in South Central Los Angeles. Went to LA High School.
High School, okay.
Back then we had City League, CIF League, you know.
Yeah, I'm CIF.
Well, see, CIF was the brothers and the family that was doing pretty good.
Yeah.
They was in the CIF. So I was in the hood.
Yeah.
But, you know, city ball. And so, honestly, I did not play against anyone white until I got to college. It was True City.
Right.
Jordan, Manuel, Dorsey. There was no other races there, so it was black football.
I can relate to that 100%.
Yeah, so it was. So that was my experience. Came up in the '80s, high school, finished in '86. But you know, a lot of crime, drugs, gangs. So it was a lot going on in Los Angeles at that time. You know, so it was very dangerous for a young black man during that time. Long Beach. You know, I know this gang stuff now is kind of commercialized, but back then.
It was real.
You couldn't dress like that. You couldn't look like that. You couldn't act like that. It's not like it is now. Guys look like gang members, but they're not gang members.
Right.
But it was an interesting time, and that was one of the reasons why my mom wanted me to leave Los Angeles and get away from school because I had several buddies of mine got killed. I was sharing with my kids many years ago. They don't know anyone that's ever died. I probably been to 8 or 9 funerals in high school of guys that I knew.
Right.
Some guys were former players and decided to get in the streets, and so it was a rough time, and that was one of my decisions on leaving Los Angeles, getting out that environment, so you wouldn't be a victim. And a lot of guys didn't make it out, but I was very fortunate too.
Right, but you know, so now, I mean, you're a high school football player, but let's leading up to the high school football. I mean, you played running back, am I not mistaken?
Played running back and corner my whole life.
Right,
and got hit one day, got to college. And they had me a running back, and that hole closed so fast, and I got hit. So my high school coach used to tell me all the time, he said, son, your future's at corner. He said, if you stay at corner, you'll be playing on Sundays one day.
Right.
But right back then, the defensive backs, they wasn't Tony Hill doing the dance in the end zone, getting all the love. You want a little shine.
Yeah.
So you enjoyed being on offense. But I went through a hole one day, and I got hit by somebody bigger and stronger than I ever have, and I laid on that ground, thought about it. And I went to the coach. I said, I think I just want to play defense.
See, LB, we want the truth, though. See,
that's the truth. I didn't want to get hit. I didn't want to get hit like that. I never told nobody that. That's true. I got hit and decided to switch sides of the ball.
No, you're a running back, right? And they move you to defense. You know what that means?
Well, no, I played defense. They didn't move me. I've always played corner. I started corner and running back. So it wasn't like I was a running back the guy moved the corner. I've always played both.
Yeah, but
Always.
I know you're trying to get away from this, but the bottom line is that I seen you play basketball. Your hands weren't the best. I mean, see,
But running backs, they got to catch the ball back then, right?
That's my
they
point.
ran the ball 90 times.
But that's my point, though.
Yeah.
My point is that if you want to be a good defensive back, you got to either lift the house, run a 4.54, 4.340, and you can play in the league. You know, hey, run them. If you can't catch, you know what they move you to, Art? You know what they move you to?
All right, but here's
They
the
move you to
best-
that defense
All
over there,
right,
boy.
I have
going with it, man.
all right, I have a defense.
Yeah.
Back then,
Yeah.
which was a long time ago, receivers wasn't catching balls. Everything was all about run, triple option, wing T. So it wasn't a lot of catching going on, period.
Now, that's,
So, yeah.
that's because he was in L.A. You know, it's that black school district. You know, they couldn't throw the ball. They could
throw the
run.
ball.
The
They can
brothers
run.
could
They got
but
speed.
They would throw the ball. See that Bush league that he was talking about, CIF? Oh, we would throw the
was
ball.
throwing
You know,
the ball.
hey, so don't get it twisted over
You
here.
know what, son? I'm a city boy. Grew up playing all black schools. I understand what he's talking about. But see, the difference is you went from that to TCU, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was a major transition, right? Because for me, I went from black lead to HBCU school,
Right.
right? But you went from that to TCU, which is 80% white school, right?
The,
So that's
the interesting thing for me was, and most people don't even think about this.
Right.
Not only did I play city ball in California, there are no HBCUs. So
Right.
we're
Okay.
in the South, and obviously out there on the East Coast, you got
Right.
some. So it's kind of common for someone to be familiar with it. We had no familiarity at all with HBCU because there was none in Arizona, none in California, none in that whole West
Oh,
Coast
that West
region.
Coast region.
Yeah, so I went from straight hood ball
Right.
to all white, and TCU at that time was all white.
what I'm saying, back then
Fort
it was-
Worth, Texas,
right.
Cowtown.
Right.
So it was what I needed. I will say this: at that time, I understood what I needed, and I needed a different environment. So it wasn't that it wasn't embraced. Like, okay, it was different. Playing with different culture
Right,
guys,
right,
and
right.
Even the coach. Like, we got cussed out by our coaches.
Yeah. From when you from LA,
Hey, bro,
right?
Yeah.
You were more afraid of the coaches than your teammates. So,
Right.
I
so
heard
you,
that.
you played out of fear of having to go to that sideline.
Exactly.
So it was a lot. You may not have learned much. You may not have learned much.
Right.
That's too funny. I used to have a coach who used to call me Ugly. Hey,
Yeah.
boy, you just Ugly. You're not ugly. You're Ugly. I said, what you talking about, man? That's how they spoke where we from. But hey, from Long Beach though, we're right down the street. So I mean, from LA to Long Beach over here. So you went to junior college first
For 1 year, yeah.
And did you play running back there, or did you play
Running back and
quarterback
corner.
there?
Running back and corner.
Both over there.
Yeah,
And then you come over to TCU, and now you're playing full-time cornerback.
Play
right,
full-time
right.
after that hit.
So after that hit,
After that hit.
no, after the coach told you, hey, you can't catch, so you
No. After that hit, the guys on the truth. I was running back, came to the hole, boom.
Okay.
And I laid on that ground, and that big boy was on me about 280.
Yeah.
And he was laying on me. And I said,
Growling,
no.
probably
I
growling
said,
too,
no.
right?
Hey, I'm going over to the other side of the ball.
You say, are you probably growling?
growling.
I'm going to the other side of the ball.
Yeah, I see what I'm working with over here, guys. I got growling, I got Compton Crips, Pyrus, Ace Dudes.
it was that.
Firestone Police, up in L.A. You remember back in the day?
Yeah.
Well, in L.A., you go into a party. We go to Baldwin Hills. I remember bringing my boys. We got a carload of brothers up there in the Baldwin Hills, man.
Right.
And the guy pulls us over just for being in the neighborhood,
Yeah.
It was one of those,
Right.
and then searches us over there,
Right.
and so that's the kind of mentality it was. He's a little after me. He's a
It
young
was
buck.
still there. It was still there.
Yeah.
I'm not. People. It's out public now, but back then getting pulled over was routine.
Right.
Getting guns pulled on you and
Right.
searched like you were a criminal. That was routine.
Right.
It wasn't anything new. Now it's they consider it woke, but hey, back then you're going to get that. If you're a young black
real.
male in the inner city back then,
Yeah.
that's what came with it. And they couldn't tell if because even though you wasn't in a gang, you lived in the neighborhood.
Right.
So you knew all the guys. You were friends. You may have been at the store, so they profiled everybody, so you were around it even though you wasn't in it.
In it. Yeah.
We talk about all the wonderful things that happen in our lives. We've been blessed. We're totally blessed.
Right.
And part of our show is that my major scripture that I always reference is Philippians 4:13. We can do all things through Christ. And so
Right.
when I come over here, I've got my armor on, and I know that it's all going to be good because it's in his hands. So, I mean, he's on time all the time. So obviously he's on time with you right here. But I think the key to be these blessings, and again, I digress, and people know that, and I'll come right back. But, everything that happened, it was meant to happen. And the bottom line is what you do with those experiences is what molds your life. As a young kid, growing up, again, you're growing up in Los Angeles over here, in the hood, for lack of a better term, amongst your people, our people, so to speak. Who was your idol? Who did you look up to? I mean, you're a running back, you're a defensive back. Let's see here's the deal. As being a quarterback, I threw the ball. I wanted to run. I was like Roger Staubach. I wanted to be like the Jefferson Street Joe, a brother from who was with. I don't know if you remember, Art. He was with the Steelers over the first black quarterback that kind of throw the ball. James Shaq Harris. Those are the guys that I wanted to be like. Talk to me. Who inspired you?
Interesting. It's going to sound real funny, but that changed throughout as I matured. For example, I grew up around drug dealers and gang members, and those are the guys you look to.
Right.
They had the money. They had the cars.
Right.
They had the girls.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
those were your influences. When I was in college and I was broke, my buddies that was selling drugs and all that kept money in my pocket. They flew me home so I could get home on spring break. So those guys originally, and I knew them for the person they was, not for the activities that they were doing. I know it sounds odd.
Right.
How can you like a drug dealer? How can you like a gangbanger? Because that person. They're not that to you.
Right.
So when they go in them streets, there's something different. But those individuals. So originally, I ended up growing up wanting to be like them. Like, man, that's and I never dreamed of a career. I never said I want to play college ball. I want to do this. Those things just happened.
Yeah.
To me, my mom got me involved in sports to keep me off the streets. Okay, so I never, in my life, early on in my life, I didn't think about it, right? I didn't think about college till my coach came in one day and said, look, there's some college coaches interested in you. I never thought about college. I only went to school because my mom said, hey, I want you to go to school. It wasn't something that I made. I didn't even make that decision. So early on, those decisions, I wasn't even making them for myself. So as I got older and I realized the activity that my guys were doing was wrong, because you don't look at it wrong. I know it sounds weird, and people say, how could you say drug dealers and gangbangers aren't doing something wrong? You're just thinking, okay, that's retaliation. They beat up Tony, so we're going to go beat up Art. Or they're just trying to eat.
Right.
So you're not looking at you're looking at it in a different way.
Right.
And so I ended up growing up, those were some of my idols, some of the drug dealers, the gang members, and all those things. The guys that was pimping, like, man, the pimp dudes had the swag.
Right.
They had the girls, and they had the dress.
Right.
You're like, man. And so I know it sounds a little crazy, but that's how it was.
Really, it doesn't.
Yeah.
I can relate to it. But the good thing about it was those guys never brought you into it,
Absolutely.
right? Because they seen something different.
Yeah. And they're human to you.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
people think that they're bad people. I played Little League with this gang member.
Yeah.
I used to play football with this ex-drug dealer.
Right.
He was cool. I know his mom. I know his brothers. I know his family. So you didn't look at them as just criminal guys with no life there.
Right.
And as I got out that environment, it was only when I left that environment, okay, that I didn't even know there was another environment to be in like that.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't around white folks. I wasn't around black folks that were successful and had businesses and smart guys like Tony that were going to the Stanfords of the world.
Right.
I wasn't around them type of brothers.
Right.
So most of the brothers I was around were criminals. So those are the ones that I end up idolizing. And once I started getting out that environment, as a matter of fact, I thought that was the only way you could be successful, because I didn't know any other success other than what they were doing.
Right.
I didn't know a business owner. I didn't know a doctor. I didn't know no brother was an attorney.
Yeah.
Those wasn't the cats we were around. So when I get out those environments, I start seeing some black folks doing something. They're like, wow, I didn't know.
Well, hey, but don't get it twisted down, because in Long Beach, don't get it twisted now from the standpoint of doctors and lawyers and what I know. Yeah, I did go to Stanford. Now, let's don't get it twisted from that standpoint. But, the reason I went to Stanford, here is I was 16 years old when I graduated from high school. I was turning 17 that June, right? So I'm 16 years old. Only schools I ever knew about UCLA, USC, Cal and Stanford. I really wasn't too familiar, but I grew up UCLA, USC, Los Angeles Lakers, Los Angeles Rams. That's where my deal. Trust me, at Long Beach Poly, I didn't know any black doctors. I didn't know any black lawyers. I didn't know any of those things. But I went to Stanford for the simple reason is that I want to stay in California, number one. Number two, Stanford throwing the ball 50 times a game. I figured, if I can get 1/3 of them passes, I can be where I'm at.
Right.
And there's a brother by the name of Gene Washington said that's the reason he went there. He said, hey, man, I was a quarterback. I broke all of his records in high school. And you're talking about situations that my junior year, I didn't play one down on our football team. My career don't look too good. I didn't get in the game. We won in 11. Hey, wait a minute. It'll be 1-11. I don't get in the game. Hey, and my dad wanted me to change schools. I said, no, I'm gonna make it here.
Right.
Hey, I'm gonna make it here. And as a result, we went opposite 11-1. Or 10-2. After we lost in the championship. And I ended up going to Stanford. So it was a great thing. But the bottom line, nobody had heard about me. Nobody knew anything. And then I go from Stanford to Texas. Now you go from college to Texas. You come from L.A. to Texas back. I'm coming from Long Beach to Texas.
That's right.
The transition. Like, hey, when I first came to Dallas, the Super Bowl. We had the Super Bowl. I drove the next morning to California. Wait a minute, you don't hear me. I had a Porsche. I drove the next morning. We in the Super Bowl. You think I'd be basking in the sun, enjoying the process?
Yeah.
I get in my Porsche and I drive to California. Never been on the road that long in my life. I didn't know it took 3,000 hours to get to El Paso. I mean, hey, for anybody that wants to take that drive, don't do it. Hey, fly.
Yeah, I've driven it before. I wouldn't do it again.
Hey, man.
Yeah. So your transition from
well, prior to my transition, I want to say this. This is very important. We knew I had a couple of buddies of mine, and we knew it was something better than what we had.
right. Okay.
Yeah.
Even though we grew up in the hood, there are great moments in the hood because you end up depending on your buddy. Like none of us had fathers, so you end up being closer to your buddies,
Right.
and your friendships. And the things you did and the places you went, you did it all together. So there were a lot of good things that came out of it. There were some bad things, but there are a lot of good things that came out of it. And one of the things we used to do, we used to drive around to the wealthy neighborhoods and just dream. Like, man, look at that house.
Right.
Wow, what did they do? One day.
Yeah.
And so we always had some hope.
Right.
And we always made a pact like, okay, whoever is going to make it out, we're bringing the other two with us. We all coming. Whoever make it out, we're going to do that. And so there was some hope and some faith in that transition. We knew there was something better than the gangs, the drugs, the poverty. Even you're talking about our high school, right? This is a true story. When we played high school, we didn't have lights at our high school, right?
Okay.
So they would start, during daylight savings, we would start games at 2:30. And whoever was winning by the time it got dark won the game. Now, nowhere.
Come on, LB.
No.
Come on, baby.
Okay. You can't play a game in the dark.
Right.
We all understand daylight savings. Now we know when that happened.
Yeah.
So we have to start the games early. They'll let guys out of that last period, and the kids can come watch some of the game. But when it got dark and you could no longer see, they called the game.
All the game.
LB,
So-
this ain't 1948.
Well, no, I'm going to finish you. 2024, my high school still don't have lights.
My high school don't have lights either.
Yeah, don't have lights.
Yeah.
We didn't have stadium.
They don't have lights.
To today,
Yeah, but they play
2024.
at the stadium though. Where they play?
They don't have a stadium. They play at the high school.
So they play at 2:30 still?
Yeah, during daylight savings.
Okay.
Daylight savings.
During daylight savings.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, because it gets dark early.
Right.
So, I mean, that's the lack of commitment. We had what they called a cinder track. I ran track. Back then, for those on those, it's a dirt track.
Right.
2024, we still have a dirt track. Okay, it's 2024. We don't have a track that's surfaced. So we still got that same dirt track. We still got them same bleachers. We still got them same old goalposts with no lights. So they didn't put money into inner city athletics. Very few did, at least back in LA at that time. So it was disappointing still to see
That they still have not
that
done
it still have not
Wow.
done that. So yes, if they start games now, during the day, they have to. That's the only way to do it.
At the LBC, Long Beach Poly, where we are.
Y'all machine. Yeah, Poly's,
we're
yeah.
a machine. We got more professional high school, more professional NFL players than any high school in the nation.
And I would say the CIF, not just Poly, that whole CIF. And as a man now, we dreamed of playing CIF because they had better facilities, they had better coaching, they had better teams than City Ball. There's no doubt about it. I think we only had two coaches on our football team with 3 volunteers in my high school.
in your high school.
Yeah, that sounds like Pee Wee football to me.
Yeah.
But hey,
And Texas can't even comprehend that. I'm gonna tell you, they like what?
No, they can't even see that.
Yeah,
No,
it'd be a mutiny.
absolutely not.
Yeah, I can't see that either though, dog. I mean, you know, because we had poor facilities or relatively poor at Long Beach City College. It's grown. I mean, immensely.
Right.
I mean, the boys probably done taken it to the next level, and people have supported the next level. I mean, so I'm not going to say that LA High just their program was no good because
Everyone
they ain't
played.
get no money.
You remember this, Tony?
Yeah.
Everybody played at their home field.
Right.
When we went to Jordan over in Watts, we played at Jordan High School. When we went to Locke, we played at Locke High School. So there was no stadium, universal stadium for people to play at. You played at your high school stadium. That's what
Right.
you did back then.
Right.
Yeah.
And so so going back to the transition, understand this again, you know, making that transition from from California to Texas, I'm still here. I mean, so I want to clarify that.
Yes.
Even though I wanted to get the heck out of there.
Right.
Yeah, I'm still here and I'm loving every moment in Texas.
Right.
It's the best thing that ever happened to
Right.
me. But when you talk about your high school, and we'll talk a little bit about that, you know, we used to play Compton. Compton's all black, you know. And matter of fact, see, the crazy thing about us, you're talking about, you know, we wanted to be a CIF. We wanted to go off of Crenshaw Boulevard. We wanted to head down. We wanted to head down the Baldwin Hill.
They thought they did.
That's where we want to go. We want to go. We want to find a fine young lady. Hey, we going up in L.A. You know, that's what we were running to. You know, that's the funny thing about it. That's the way you have Foxfield Mall. You remember Foxfield?
Absolutely.
That's what we were rolling. We figured all the pretty honeys.
That's
were in
right.
Foxfield Mall.
That's right.
Hey, Tony, you know I've been to your neighborhood 100 times, right?
Yeah.
So he talking about coming to L.A., right? Jordan High School, which is in Watts.
Right.
Field, they have the projects that overlooks the field. Someone has actually been shot from the projects before, a rival team, because those schools got rival gangs coming in.
Right, yeah.
And we've gone in to those games, true story, and people like that, they've said, hey, man, if y'all win, we're gonna kill y'all, we're gonna shoot y'all. These gang members, thugs. So the projects, everybody's out on the projects watching the game because they don't have to go into the stadium because it
can
literally
see it.
backs up to it.
Right.
And so it was that type of environment. And we told our coach, they said they're going to kill us. Hey, you want to get killed by them? You want to get killed by me? Hey, you make a decision you want to get killed by. Are they taking you home? Do you want to get left here?
Hey, you know, that's funny. That's funny you say that. Hey, so we played Compton was our big rival. So Compton's all black, and probably, you know, about 65% black. Most black players are on the team, you know,
Right.
on the athletics, you know. And so a girl gets shot in front of our school. That's when the crime was high. I mean, right in front of campus. So we got to play Compton in basketball. I mean, I turned it out in football. We got to play them in basketball. Our games are usually at 8:00 at night. You know, we play. So they changed our game to 2:00 like you guys. We
Right.
play at Compton at 2:00, right? So get this, though, you know, and we all think we cool, you know, the brothers, you know, back in the day, you know, we got the first game, but the game, we win our game, right? We win our game at 2:30, right? And so we go sit to watch the JVs play. They're playing after us. You know, normally they play before us. Varsity plays, you know,
Right.
they're playing before us. And so now I'm sitting here, got my legs crossed. I'm sitting here. One of my boys is sitting over here. No, we trying to play because we had Compton. Compton's supposed to have all the girls, right? So we over there sitting down, and this brother comes up to me and says, you Tony Hill? I said, yeah, I'm Tony. He said, you're a dead man.
Wow.
Wow.
Wait a minute, wait. He said, you're a dead man.
Wow.
Wait a minute. I'm looking at all my boys. And they say, hey, don't sit with me. Hey.
You don't sit with me.
I went and sat right next to the brother. I got on his hip, Artie. He moved to the other side. I moved with him. Hey, we went in the locker room. I'm going to get to the end of it. We went in the locker room, you know, 'cause at halftime, after the word was out that they're going to hit, you know, somebody's going to shoot me or kill me.
Right.
They go, hey, you guys come in the locker room. So the sisters in the school, they were cursing us out for being in their locker room. You know, the sisters, they wanted us to get out of there. You know, they didn't want us to be because it's still during school time.
Right.
So anyway, here's the funny thing about it. So again, I mess all my boys up because if you were sitting over there, Larry, I went and sat right beside you, and then and then you got up and moved.
I'm moving.
Don't
You
sit
can-
by-
Right,
don't sit
exactly,
by me.
yes.
You dead, man.
We get on the bus, though. We get on the bus. We leave. You don't see no heads on the bus. Hey, the bus is empty. All the brothers are ducked
Wow.
underneath there as we traveling home, man. And the bottom line is that, hey, they say, you know what? Next time. And that's the way it went. That's the way it ended. So I'm totally familiar with it because, you know, you had in L.A., which was hard, but Long Beach was heavy, too. It was heavy. in the
Yeah.
crime.
Don't get
Big
me wrong.
time,
but
right, you know.
Long Beach and the CIF, even though you had Long Beach, you had other good schools. In LA, you had Manual Arts, Hood,
Right.
Dorsey,
Right.
Hood, Locke,
Right.
Hood,
Right.
Jordan. Now, they had phenomenal athletes. You know, FloJo and all them came out of Jordan High School down in Watts. I mean, they had phenomenal athletes, okay? James Washington came out of Jordan, played for the Cowboys,
Right.
went to Jordan. So they had the best athletes down there. You know, so my boy Hugh Jackson came out of Dorsey. You know,
James Lofton's out of
James Lofton. Yeah,
out of that area. As well.
Warren Moon.
Warren Moon,
yeah,
right.
went to Hamilton High School.
Right, right.
So all of your best at that time, everything is dispersed now, and guys have moved out to what I would call programs. So I would say they had teams, they didn't have programs.
Right.
I think the CIF back then had programs, better coaching, better everything, and I think they won it every year. I mean, so you aspired to be in that CIF, and then they had better people. Like we had guys, you know, we had all. I mean, you think about a hood team. Some dude was in jail yesterday.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Grades came out, half our team's ineligible.
Right. Yeah.
You know, so you're like, what happened? You know, we had 40 dudes. We got 19 dudes on the team now because grades came out.
Hey, that's too
So
funny.
those are the experiences and environment that you come from. But it all wasn't bad. It was some good things too.
It's
So
always that.
let's get to TCU though. So now you've made that transition to TCU, or have you made that commitment? Talk to us a little bit about that experience, and then we'll expand. Talk about the Cowboys.
TCU was an interesting transition for me because it was the first time I ever had a white coach, and then it was also what I would call, for my first time experience, different types of blacks. Right? I grew up.
Uppity.
No. Like the blacks, there were black kids on our team that came out of white programs.
Okay.
I never knew guys like that.
Okay.
You know, most of the guys I knew were all in black programs, this and that. And so if something wasn't right, they knew how to handle it a lot better than the guys who didn't.
Okay.
Like, man, we would say, man, that's wrong. That's, you know, why all the black guys in study hall and nobody, you know, this and that.
Right.
I think the black guys that came out of certain programs had a chance to experiences that we didn't have. So it was an adjustment to first be coached by someone white. The next thing is like, man, you know, there's different type of brothers out there, right? You're right. Some brothers was interracial dating. I never saw that before.
Right.
Some brothers was in, you know, black sororities. Some brothers in white sororities. So coming out the hood, the inner city, that was something. An adjustment itself.
A new world.
Even within your own new world.
Right.
Because you thought all the brothers was the same.
Yeah.
Like, nah, it wasn't like that.
Right.
And so so it matured me. You know, it was an experience that I had to learn, and you adjusted how white guys coaches. I was used to getting cussed out. You know, we wasn't encouraged. Hey, good job. Well, don't worry about it. We'll get back in there. So
Right.
I was like, wow, okay, you can mess up and you're going to get pat on the back, you know? Don't worry about it. So, and I had a guy named Rocky Long. Rocky coached a long time in college, who was a very good coach, good defensive back coach. And Rocky had told me, he said he's put a defensive back in the pros every year he's been coaching. He found Urlacher. He used to be head coach in New Mexico. He was a head coach in San Diego State for years. And Rocky was a very, very well-respected coach. So I learned a lot from Rocky. But TCU matured me. It allowed me to see something different. And the other thing it did for me, I couldn't always afford to go home. So I would go home with different guys on the team.
Okay.
So I had never been to the country before, right? One of my buddies, Tony Darthur. So one spring break, I couldn't afford to go home. So I'd never been to the country. I'm talking about real, true country. I'm talking about one dude with 9. Now you got a bunch of baby daddies. Back then it was a family that had 9 brothers and sisters by the same mama and daddy.
Right.
It wasn't a bunch of baby daddies like it is now. Yeah. And I remember I stayed over Tony's, and so I'm spring break now. I'm about to sleep in. So I got up about 8 o'clock one night. Like, hey man, you missed breakfast. I missed breakfast. What?
Yeah.
So my boy come knock one day he come knock on the door. Hey man, you want to get up? It's like 7. I'm like, what? So what y'all about to do? So I'm gonna sit on the porch. Sit on the porch. I'm sleeping in. What you talking about?
Yeah.
And I remember this. I'll never forget this with Tony's dad. So I'm sitting there. Tony and them are out there doing yard work, and I'm sitting there watching TV. And Tony dad comes to me and says, hey son, you plan on eating tonight? I said, yes, sir. He said, you better get out there and help with that work.
Oh,
Right.
So I'm out there doing yard work now because I never had that father figure in my life. But what I learned there, everybody worked.
Yeah.
Everybody had a role in the family, you know. So you had some people cooking, some people doing the yard work, some people washing clothes, but everybody contributed. Well, and growing up in LA, my mom worked 2 jobs. So we were left home to tend to ourselves quite a bit.
Right.
So being able to go home with Tony and just seeing that family structure, even though it was country, it you know, again, everything helped to shape a little piece of what I had to learn and experience. And that was a major one because I never saw a man in a home who had control of his home.
Right.
He didn't abuse it, but everybody had a role, including himself.
Right.
And he's like, well, I'm going to work. And when I get back, blah, blah, blah. So he had his role. Everybody had their
Call
role.
them chores, right? Everybody. I
I wouldn't even call them chores. I would say responsibilities.
Responsibilities. Okay.
Yeah, chores is kind of something you have to do, but responsibilities.
Use that term for some reason, right?
I like responsibility a little better than chores. For example, the wife was responsible for the home. I wouldn't call that a chore. I would say that's a responsibility.
Right.
You're responsible for putting that check in the bank.
Right.
I wouldn't say that's a chore. I would say that's responsibility. So I had the kids were responsible for some cooking and cleaning. Mm-hmm. Everyone had their responsibilities, and it wasn't just that week. Okay. So it was the first time I saw structure inside of a family. Okay. Yeah. It was the first time I saw people who knew who their dads was.
Yeah.
Because a lot of us didn't have dads, and it wasn't involved in your life. So sitting back, observing this in your 20s, coming from Los Angeles was pretty amazing to see.
Well, let's talk about that. Before you get to the Cowboys, and we most certainly going to talk a little bit about that. And we ain't going to talk a lot because I want to talk about Larry. But you talk about your mom. I hear you talk about your mom and brothers and sisters. I haven't heard much about them, but tell us a little bit about moms, and things that you had to experience over there. Obviously, I can see that your TCU experience has enlightened you. You know the type of conversation he has. Responsibilities, not chores. Yeah.
Right.
Hey,
that's right.
At TCU don't work with them. See, but
that's
hey,
right.
but
No doubt.
But talk because you would have said that in back in the day. Hey, the brothers, blah 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 blah. But now you're being articulate with
it. Well, my mom never called them chores. Make sure this house clean when I get back.
Right.
There was no
wasn't no chores.
There wasn't no chores.
Right.
So
so talk to us about
my mom.
that.
So I have a younger brother and I have an older sister. My sister's 58. I'm 56, and my younger brother is 48 now. My mom grew up in Philly, projects of Philly, and ended up meeting my dad. My dad was a truck driver. So when they met, they met in Florida. I don't know how she got to Florida, but they ended up moving to Los Angeles. They divorced when I was about 6. But because he was a truck driver, he was never really present anyway.
Right.
He was on the road 9-10 months out the year anyway, even up to 6 points. Once they divorced, that was it. He was out of our lives. So my mom raised 3 kids, by herself. She did the best she could, just on a high school education.
Right.
Back then you could. And so she was always working multiple jobs. It was never enough. And you lived where you could, So that was her experience of just, and you don't understand until you get older what it means to be a single mother raising 3 children, in Los Angeles, till you get older. You don't appreciate the sacrifices, the getting in late, working 2 jobs, doing what you have to do.
Right.
And so, but that was her experience, and always wanting more. Even though my mom was like this, don't do what I do what I say. In other words, even though we lived in bad neighborhoods, she tried to raise her kids right within that neighborhood. Mm-hmm. I used to tell my mom all the time, you do a great job in this house, but we got to leave this house. So when you leave this house, you're going to see that pimp. You're going to see that drug dealer. Right. She did a wonderful job, but the environments we were in wasn't the best because that's all she could afford. And so, but she did a wonderful job in raising all 3 and us getting out without anybody getting killed. None of us been to prison, or jail. My brother has a few times, but my sister haven't. But smoking weed and all the other stuff. But yeah. So it was again, to me, my life was like each part was almost like a building and learning process. Playing for all black coaches, then going to all white coaches at TCU. Playing with all black players in the inner city, then going to TCU, playing with guys that been in black kids that's been in programs. And then also playing with white kids. Growing up in the inner city, you think all white folks are rich because all you see on TV is success.
Right.
They didn't show poor white kids struggling. So even my perception there was, I thought all the white kids were rich and were doing well. And when I got to TCU, I realized there was some white kids that struggled too. Right. They came out of different, some people call them trailer park or whatever you want to call them, but it wasn't all what I thought TV was. Like, man, okay, so every step as a person, not football, was a building and learning process for me to grow as a person. And I cherish all those moments because it really helped me understand and shape who I am today.
Right.
Yeah, it's not necessarily funny because you can't get away with it. I definitely can't get away with that statement you just made in my house because my kids will let me know. because it was more, you had to lead by example. For example, my parents say, "You don't do what I do, you do what I say."
That's right.
You know, and that's where I grew up. You know, hey, my dad could do this, but if I knew it was wrong,
Right.
and not that it said he did, but if I knew it was wrong, and he told me don't do it, I ain't doing it. Or if he knew it was right, I wasn't doing it. You do what you don't do what I do. You do what I say. And that's where I grew up. But if I tell my kids like that right now, my girls will give me the right. They'll have a noose for me. They'll have a noose for me, including the wife, to say, "Hey, okay, don't do what I do. Just do what I say.
Right.
Get in this noose over here."
Right.
You know.
Right.
So that's good stuff though, because I hadn't heard that a long time. You know, again, I've got 3 girls and a boy in that order, and so my whole life is really been turned upside down in a very positive manner. I mean, because it was just my brother and I in my life. So only thing I knew about women was dating them at that time. I mean, going out. I never really knew much about women. And of course, my kids have educated me.
And we didn't know. I'm just being honest. You know, I'm not trying to be funny. And hopefully some of yours don't take this the wrong way. But we knew inner city girls. Like, we didn't know successful, intelligent girls. We grew up around what some people call hood rats.
Right.
You know, so that's all you knew and understood at that time too, because you know, the good girls' parents didn't want them around those dudes and the guys they saw. I mean, I'm the same way. This guy's going to jail. This guy's gaming. These guys are trouble. They kept the good ones away from that. So even learning about women and the type of women out there for us was again, I learned a lot when I started to move on to college and experience different things, even within my own culture.
Right.
Yeah, that's back in the day where game recognizes game. You know, that's kind of the era that we kind of grew up in. You know, hey, you got to be able to run a game. You got to have a game to understand a game.
The
You know,
wanted a certain guy at a certain level of game, right?
yeah. Well, I'm not
Depending on the girl.
Depending
on the girl.
Depending on the girl.
You know,
right.
inner city girls grow up around criminals, thugs, gang members, so they're comfortable with them.
Right.
Where Tony ain't finna let his girls around a bunch of dudes just doing all that craziness. And
No, I'm not gonna go there. I have nothing to do with what my girls do. I would go on record.
I
and
mean,
say,
in general.
No, I'm just kidding with y'all. You know, hey,
Yeah.
you know they're gonna be listening. Hey, guys, I had nothing to do with that. Y'all do what you want to do
Yeah.
when you want to do it. Just let me know about it. But
Right.
but I'm keeping it real with you, so to speak.
Right. Yeah.
All right, so hey man, now we're going to the Cowboys over here, and you go to the combine. Now, you know, like I said, one of the things about a defensive back, you know, they used to say that they run a 4.3, lift a house. You know, they can't catch nothing, but they run a 4.3, lift a house. What was your 40 time? Because I'm looking at this stats. I want to make sure this is all right.
I ran 4.43 at the combine.
Okay, but I see something that said you ran a 4.63.
Nah, I ran 4.43.
Okay,
As a matter of fact,
I'm just saying. You know,
yeah. I ran 4.43. If you go back to Jimmy said one of the reasons he drafted me is because I could run.
Right.
That was his statement. That was his statement. So, yeah, that's
right.
You know, now I wasn't Dion. I wasn't 4.2.
Right.
But 4.43 is my official time.
4.43 would work for me. I'd be diving to get 4.43.
Yeah.
I'd be leaning like that. If I could get at 4.5 back in the day. You know, hey, you know.
And I think the thing to understand about my story, Tony, everything I'm telling you, I just lived it. I never expected it. So in other words, I didn't plan on going to college.
Right. Yeah.
When I got to TCU, I never thought about the pros.
Interesting.
My coach came and said, "Hey, look, you know, there's some scouts that like you." I never knew I got invited to the combine. I never knew how. To the All-Star game. I never thought about it. I didn't know there was an All-Star game.
Right.
So these things were kind of just happening in my life. It wasn't they were planned. I even, just trained. I trained on my own. I didn't know that you're supposed to get an agent and, they take you over here and train you. So I did all my training on my own. So nothing was deliberate. It was just, things were just happening. When I got to the Cowboys, I didn't even know if I made the team. I remember asking James Washington, I said, did I make it on the last cut? He said, well, did they come get your playbook? I said, no. He said, then you made it. I said, oh, okay. That's how naive I was.
Right.
Because I didn't know. There was no one there to walk you through the steps and the process.
Right.
So I didn't think about it. I just played at TCU. Went to school, played, and didn't know. Coach came one day, hey, you got invited to the combine. Oh, okay. Hey, you got invited to an All-Star game. Okay. So I didn't think about it that way.
Okay, cool. So you cleared that thought that the 4.6. I was gonna say that's extremely impressive to have a cornerback that runs a 4.6 and be successful. Because the bottom line is that the boys can roll. If you can't be a 4.6 backpedaling, kind of doing your thing. Otherwise, that's gonna be a tough day for you.
Well,
maybe
what
playing
about football speed?
football's
Not at corner.
Yeah,
You got to be able to run something.
like I said, the criteria for a good cornerback was like 4'3",
4'4",
40,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
4'4",
Yeah.
at worst, you know, strength, you know, strong as an ox, you know,
Right.
and you know, if he caught that, that was just a plus, you know,
Right.
so to speak. So now you come to how about them boys? You got Jimmy over there. And you got a new breed of Cowboys. Talk to me. Now,
Well,
that's
I
much
was
different.
disappointed when I got drafted by the Cowboys. Let me tell you why.
Okay.
I went to the combine, did fairly well, went to the All-Star game, I went to Senior Bowl, went to Blue Gray, won MVP of Blue Gray.
Okay.
So everything I was hearing was third, fourth round. And I thought Atlanta told me, if you're there in the fourth, we are taking you. So I'm thinking Atlanta. And so we didn't win a lot at TCU. I mean, so we had, 3 offensive coordinators, 3 defensive coordinators. It wasn't a good experience because I never lost like that, right? We won in high school. And you guys know this, when you're playing for African-American coaches, losing is the end of the world. You think somebody died. When I got to TCU, everybody wasn't upset when we lost. Everybody reacted differently.
Right.
And I wasn't used to that. So when I finished TCU, we didn't have a great experience winning. Then here comes the Cowboys. And even on draft day, I didn't watch it, nothing. My agent called me and said, hey, man, the Cowboys picked you. So I said, true story. I said, God, you must not like me. They were coming off a 1-15 team. I said, right. So I was disappointed, 2 reasons. I thought I was going to go higher, didn't. And now I got drafted to the worst team in the NFL.
Right.
So I said, man, I'm just never going to have any fun because losing, I don't care if it's little league, high school, college, losing's not fun.
Right.
And peripheral losing too. I'm talking about like 1-1, 2 games.
Right.
When you talking about 500 battling there, never went to a bowl game in college, not once. So I said, now I'm going to the worst team in football. They had just fired Tom Landry. I'm like, total chaos because I had some of that at TCU. Guys getting fired, the coordinator getting fired, old coordinator getting. I understand some of the chaos. So now I'm going to a team 1-15. Everybody's mad about Tom Landry. Here comes a new owner. They went 1-15. I'm like, man, I'm just not going to have any fun. So I didn't look at it. I remember I think I told Tony, I still think I'm the youngest guy Cowboys drafted. I got drafted at 20 years old. I didn't turn 21 till late November of my rookie season. So I'm still young. I don't know any better. But I'm like, man, I'm just never going to have any fun. I'm going to the worst team in football. The fans are all pissed off. Everybody's mad. Mm-hmm. I just, man, it's not going to be any fun. So I wasn't necessarily happy that I got drafted to the Cowboys. And I was a little more disappointed than I was happy at that time, being young.
Interesting. The interesting thing, having a chance to visit with you, we've got so much in common, believe it or not. I mean, it's ironic. Obviously, growing up on the West Coast, L.A. and Long Beach is like Dallas to Plano, I mean, it's just relatively close. But FYI, at college, I went to Stanford, which is a cultural shock for me.
Great school, yeah.
But outstanding school.
Yeah.
You go to TCU, for example. I played in the Blue-Gray game. I played in the East-West, and I played in the Senior Bowl over there. I thought I was going to be a first-round draft pick, but I sprained my ankle and ended up being the first person in the 3rd round. But I was disappointed as well. Only good thing is that I was glad. I mean, I was happy to be with the Cowboys because Roger Staubach was my idol. I'm playing with number 12, and then Drew Pearson. I used to wear Drew Pearson. Man, my job was to come out to him. Hey, I'm gonna let Drew Pearson know Tony Hill's in town. That was my deal. That was my motivation. I'm gonna let you know. But then you play as a rookie. My rookie year, I saw no action. We go to the Super Bowl. I'm over here. I'm happy, but I'm not happy because I want to be able to contribute on the field. But I can't. I'm just on the bench and trying to do little things that I can do. Now, you get on the Cowboys, your rookie year, you end up starting. You took a brother by the name of Manny Hendricks. As a matter of fact, Manny played with me. He was a basketball player up in Utah. We turned him to cornerback. So talk to me about that year.
It's interesting at that time, too, because Manny Hendricks, I ended up starting week 2 of my rookie season. Okay. And again, I'm naive. I didn't even know if I made the team. Mm-hmm. Okay, so once I made the team, I'm running down on kickoff special teams. Jimmy Johns comes week 2, said, hey, you're starting this week. I said, what, starting? I mean, I wasn't eased in. I didn't play any nickel.
Right.
I went from special teams to starting.
Yeah.
So, again, I don't know the process. I don't think I'm ready for that. Mm-hmm. And I remember they went to Manny, and I always loved Manny for this. Manny's a true professional. The guy that they probably should have sat down was Ike Holt, but they decided to sit Manny. And so I said, I went to Manny. I said, Manny, I apologize. He said, you don't owe me an apology for anything. You didn't do anything. Manny actually worked with me and helped get me ready. And you don't see that in a lot of guys.
Right.
And so, again, there's always someone along the way that kind of grabbed me and kind of helped me, because I went and apologized to him because they said I was starting, because I looked up to Manny, and Manny has kind of been helping me, mentoring me, even when I was down there. So I felt bad. You know, and again, obviously, I'm not realizing the business of what we're doing. I'm 20 years old. I don't know. I'm starting this week, and a guy that I really respect and like, they're sitting him down. And the way he handled it and the way he handled me, and he kind of mentored me and helped prepare me to go in to do well. And so, so I've always been grateful and appreciative of Manny Hendricks, and that speaks to the character and the person that he is.
That's awesome, because, you know, Manny was like that with us, and he was a young buck coming with us. You know, when I was there, obviously I was toward the end of my career, and Manny was coming out that cornerback, and obviously being a young and green and being a basketball player turned cornerback, and so he was athletic, and he could fill it up. Oh, he was a ball player, but to hear him say, hear you say what you said about him is a tremendous compliment, not only to him and his family. If I'm not mistaken, he still may be involved in some type of college.
He's assistant athletic director at University of Utah right now.
Is that where he is?
Yes,
Hey, that's a strong brother. I'm
good
glad
man.
that you said
Good
that.
man. And just really, and again, when you're young, I can't, discount this. When you're 20 years old and you have no clue where you are, what you're doing, how it goes, it means a lot for a veteran guy to grab you. That they were the first person, our first road trip, I wore what I wore on the streets.
Right.
I didn't know no better. They're like, no, bro.
Hey,
you can't.
You got to step up your game. Hey.
So I'm like, I'm not paying that kind of money for this stuff these dudes are wearing. Hey, I ain't got that kind of money.
Right, exactly.
But-
What?
So Manny and them bought me my first suit.
Oh, really?
Wow.
They said, hey,
I got to really talk to my brother. That's
Yeah,
really sharp.
yeah.
I think we were the big brothers at that time. Obviously, Manny
Yeah.
was a young buck, but obviously we must have had some positive influence. So that's all good.
bought me my first suit because I didn't know what to wear on the road. I'd never been, again, in college, they issue you a shirt and you
Right,
wear it. And
right.
they're like, no, these guys are wearing nice suits and all this fancy stuff. And, I didn't have that kind of money. And I had a black leather jacket with some slacks. And they were like, no, hey, that was my first road trip. I didn't know any better.
Hey, so let's go, because I don't have. We got a little bit more time, not
Gotcha.
much, but I just want to talk about Super Bowl. We got to talk about Super. I mean, the key thing is, one thing is that you've had 3 interceptions in 2 Super Bowls, right? I basically had 1 in the second Super Bowl and 2 in the third
That's
Super
correct.
Bowl.
Right.
So a lot of my buddies, I said, I'm going to interview Larry Brown. I said, hey, I told my boy, I said, I'm interviewing Larry Brown. He said, man, I just want to know. Neil O'Donnell, who is Larry paying? What kind of is his son on a scholarship, or is Larry got a foundation that he's paying them for Neil O'Donnell to throw
Right.
no passes? Come on.
Right.
So I said I'm going to ask him. So
Right
is it
question.
true that you are paying Neil O'Donnell scholarship fund?
No. So let me say what happened so people I can tell them that. So Tony talked about my hands.
Right.
So when I was a rookie, I dropped about 14 interceptions. I think I had 25 pass defense. And Emmett started calling me Edward Scissorhands. Right?
Okay.
So Michael Irvin came to me one day, this couple years later, and he said, look, dude, you're not a receiver. Who says you got to use your hand? Just catch the ball. You got a body, just catch the ball.
Right.
I'm trying to be a receiver, and I'm trying to do this and
Right.
do all the stuff Tony and them do. That's not who you are.
Right.
So that really changed my way of just catching the ball.
Right.
Because all the opportunities that I had, the drop, I probably would have had 50 interceptions of all the dropped. They go up as pass defenses.
Right.
But I'd say half of them are probably dropped interceptions. So that really helped shape me on just catching the ball. So in the Super Bowl, our goal was, if you get a chance, this game's going to come down to a couple of plays that someone should have or shouldn't have made. And they kind of instilled that, like, don't be that guy. Don't be the guy that dropped the ball that would have changed the game. And so my mindset was that. On the first interception, it wasn't Neil's fault. It was blitz check. We were going zero coverage. We're coming. They either ran slant or stop right. And so I saw the receiver stop break. I jumped him and cut him off. So the first one was actually me just making a play, beating the receiver to the spot.
Right.
The second one was Charles Haley is hitting Neil O'Donnell's hand as he's throwing it, and it redirect the ball. Okay? So I got to give Charles credit for that second one. Okay, because
Everybody don't see that part.
well, if you look at the tape, Charles is hitting his elbow, and it moves it just enough as he's throwing it to redirect that ball. But you still got to make the play. So for me, the hardest part for me is catching him. That's Tony don't have to think about it. Receivers, they do this, but when you don't have good hands, that's harder than covering someone. Because, man, and that ball comes out. Tony knows this. Those quarterbacks throw that ball hard.
Right.
It's not soft. So, yeah, and so make the play. Don't be the guy that dropped it. Don't be the guy. And so that was always in my head. And Mike would go back. Mike, you ain't got to use your hands.
So
Catch it how you can. So that's what they came.
You got to hear. That's his story, and he's sticking to it.
That's the truth.
I mean,
that's the truth. That's the true story.
I thought when Neil went to the sideline, he had a CNI dog over there that was escorting him over there. Because all right, I'm gonna tell you right now. Hey, I could have made them throws left-handed.
Well,
I just want to tell you. Hey,
here's what I tell.
That's negative, but I could have turned the left hand and threw the ball like that.
Well, here's the difference between winning and losing.
Yeah.
I tell people that too. Troy threw 2 interceptions in that game. Nobody remembers. Okay. So both quarterbacks threw 2 picks, but Troy's not the bum because we won. You see what I mean? So it's a fine line between winning, and losing, and remembering what happened.
And then we got you back, baby. We got you back. Hey, that's where you want to spin it. I'm gonna roll with you. Yeah, you heard it live right here on Breakfast with the Boys.
Yeah.
That Larry just happened to be in the right place.
No,
at the right
first
time.
one I made a play.
Right.
The second one I gave Charles Haley credit because he redirected the guy's arm.
But like you said, you still got to catch the ball.
You still got to catch the ball.
Right.
And you still got to do something with it after.
Because if you'd have dropped both,
that's got to go with those yards.
If you'd have dropped both of those balls, they would have said
we lost because he didn't catch it. That's
right,
correct.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, and Arch kind of give you some
I'm a
dap over
defensive
there.
guy, man, so I'm going to stay on the defensive
All I
side.
saw is when you caught the ball, there was a freeway that had nobody on the freeway because you was out there by yourself on that freeway.
Yeah, he redirected. He redirected.
Hey, so you can give some dap. Say, hey, I'm not taking away from you. Hey, it is what it is. I mean, hey.
But I also, people remember that the championship game, we were behind. I picked Brett Favre off to get us back into the game. To late in the fourth quarter, we were losing the Green Bay Packers that same Super Bowl ride.
But you're not funding Brett Favre's scholarship. You're funding Neil O'Donnell's
Well, no. Brett wishes he had that interception back. There's no doubt about it because that pick changed the game.
Yeah.
We were down. I think I ran it back to like the 20. We took the lead and ended up going on to get to the Super Bowl because of that. So they kind of had us on the hooks. But yeah. So, yeah, you're just happy to make – you know this, Tony. Yeah. You know this, Art. Yeah. You just want to contribute.
Yeah.
If you're a competitor, you don't want to be in that huddle and not a guy making plays at all. As a matter of fact, I'm not sure you can be in our huddle and be a guy and have trusted without making plays. So you just want to make the plays however you get them. The best you have, yeah.
So when I played, man, we were. I'm sure we were just like you. You guys are probably just a modern version of what we were. Because let me tell you something. If we didn't dress right going on the plane, they would hit you up. If you were looking bad, they would hit you up, and I mean they would greet you on the plane. Did you guys have guys like that? We had comedians on it. I'm talking about straight out punk you, for lack of a better term, if you didn't come correct, And so
I think they took it easy on me. So the interesting thing is, the year that I got drafted there, I was the only defensive back they took. So in the room that year. So everybody else had been there. So I was the rookie among all the vets.
Right.
They didn't bring any other defensive backs in. I was the only one. So I think because of that, I didn't get a chance that how they share the criticism. They kind of took it easy on me. They made it hard. They were vets, but they realized it's just him. We can't share this across other rookies.
Right.
So, so I think I didn't get it didn't go as hard as it could have been, because I think a lot of times that rookies they share it, but being the only rookie in the room with Vince Albritton, Ray Horton, Manny Hendricks, and I was just being the young guy, and I was a 12th rounder. I don't think if I had been a first rounder, maybe things would have been different. But I don't think anybody expected me to be there anyway. So I don't think I took a blunt of the abuse that I could have taken.
Right.
Hey, let's talk some family, man. I mean, Art, I know about you and your family, and family's huge to you, and Larry. We're here to talk about you and your family. Tell me a little bit about your family. Tell me about your wife. Tell me about your boys and your daughter.
Wow. So great question. Met my wife. Been married 31 years.
Wow.
Yeah. 31 years. Met my wife in college. She's from Fort Worth, but she went to Prairie View.
Okay.
And I met her at Prairie View again, I couldn't afford the spring break to go home. So one year I went down there, saw some buddies of mine from LA that went to PV and met her. Ironically, she was from Fort Worth. Didn't know that at the time. And her cousin, who went to TCU, it was my fraternity brother, I'm a Kappa man, was my frat brother. Didn't even know it, her cousin Rodney. So met my wife there, and the rest is history. We had 3 kids. My son's the youngest. My son plays football. He's at Purdue now, finishing his last year. I was at UCLA for 3 years, and he's at Purdue finishing his last year.
Wide receiver as well.
Wide
correct?
receiver. He can actually catch. He can actually catch. Yeah. He can actually. He has good hands.
Put a stamp on
I don't know where he got that from, but yeah, he got good hands. So he went there. My middle daughter went to Texas Tech. She's a doctor now. So
Wow.
yeah, she finished and got her doctor's degree
Nice.
in nursing. So she's a doctor now, nurse practitioner.
Okay.
And so she's doing that. And my oldest daughter went to Baylor, and she's a director of marketing for a medical supply company. So they're all doing good, happy with them, and just a beautiful thing to see your kids fly and going to school. And for a kid out of South Central to see all 3, we broke the generational curse. I was the first in my family to go to college. So to see all 3 of my children graduate from college, my son's working on his master's. He's graduated and he's working on his master's at Purdue. So to see them go through that cycle is a blessing, and that's what it's about. None of them have kids. None of them been in any trouble in today's time. And I don't know if I can politically say this, but I'm going to say it, all of them aren't struggling with identity or anything like that, those issues. So, they kind of know who they are, what they are. And in today's time, that's a lot harder with young kids with their identity and who and what they are. So we don't have any of those issues. I think that's a blessing. So it's been wonderful. It's been wonderful.
And so we got a good chance to find out a little bit about LB, and I like to hear that. What is LB doing now?
It's a great question, Tony. So I don't call it real work. My wife and I own real estate, and we're property managers of our own portfolio that we own. Obviously, having played, you do different appearances, different marketing things here or there, but the core of what we do is the property management of our real estate portfolio.
Nice. And now, Art, I got my boy. I didn't get a chance to say that, but again, I told you guys, this is kind of my go-to guy. We've been together. Anytime I want to go somewhere, anytime I want to bounce somebody. And in fact, I'm even bouncing trips with Larry over here. But Art, talk to me about what are you doing? I mean, so for my folks out here, say, hey, I got your boy, but who is he? What does he do? Tell me a little bit about yourself real quick, Art.
Well, I mean, first of all, Tony, because of Tony, my little short NFL career, but then helping out the NFL back in 2012 doing the officiating thing. From that point, Tony helped me stay with the uniform inspectors, right? So I'm on the field now, hemming up these guys.
Is he fighting like he used to do me? Like, Tony, I'm your boy. You do my time. Let me out here, Tony.
Yeah, he took me through the ropes, man, and he made sure I was doing all the right stuff, right? So he handed that baton off to me, man. That's cool. But other than that, man, I have my own company called Outside Wall Shield. What we do is protect your homes from freezing, the pipes from freezing during the wintertime.
Yeah.
Right? So since you talk about the real
We may need it, yes.
Yeah, I'm going to take care of you on that part. But that's kind of keeping me busy, and also, I'm an independent, project engineer, right? So I help other companies develop, like, indoor wireless systems, stuff like that.
That's awesome.
So kind of like going back to what you were saying, man, coming from the projects, playing in the city and going to Morgan State, it did kind of change my world, kind of change my way of thinking. And I hope that all kids or parents can get their kids to get another view of life, right? Because today's day with social media, these kids getting locked down in a bad way, from my perspective, right? So it's always good to talk to brothers who has that old school mentality.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that still needs to float, right? But yeah.
So LB, you're gonna love this. So you and I both played 9 years with you, 8, 10 years with me. We both played in the league, right? Art was refereeing during the strike.
That's right.
Well, he's one of the, I don't want to use this word, but one of the scab refs. I was trying to find a politically correct name, but the bottom line is, here's the deal, though. I just want to share this with you, which you're gonna really appreciate it. 10 years in my league, I've never been on the cover of Sports Illustrated. Have you ever been on the cover of Sports
Not that
Illustrated?
I'm aware of, no.
Hey, my man was in the league for 3 games, and he's on the cover of Sports Illustrated. I ain't gonna go no further than that. All I want to know is that, hey, he's on the cover of Sports Illustrated with him and Harbaugh, and I'm gonna leave it at that. Okay, but the bottom line is that he's accomplished more than we did accomplish in 10 years, 20 years of playing ball in 3 months. So hey, 3 weeks.
I want to say this too. The biggest thing for me that I take out of all this experience, I never thought a ball would take me to the places that it's taken,
Yes,
and have
absolutely.
me meet the people that I've had to meet. That's bigger than the game itself.
Nice.
Think about all the relationships, the people you've met, the things you've done as a result of that ball. And some people have dreamed about it, but when I think about all the people in my life and the places, I'm still amazed. Like, man, it's not that I played ball, more so the people, Tony and Drews and Dorsett's and those guys, and the Michael Irvins and the guys that I play with, and all the people we played against that and just even outside them, the business people, the community people, the church leaders. It's because of this ball, and so I'm still like living. I'm like in this fantasy land. Like, man, can you believe we really did that? I know such and such, and because of this and that, and so that the game has been. Not the game football itself, but the game of life and what it's brought the place. I've been all over the world. A little knucklehead from South Central Los. I've been all over the world.
There you go.
Like I had never been on a plane before I went to TCU.
Right, exactly.
And now I've been all over the world, and so I'm still can't believe it.
That's
Can't
funny.
believe
Think about this though, Tony. We all here in Texas, and one quick thing: the reason why I moved to Texas because the last time I was in camp and I got cut, my mind was so messed up. I had to get away from Virginia. So me and my wife was my girlfriend. We just jumped on a plane and moved to Texas
it. Wow.
just to get away.
Just get away.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, that's good stuff. I mean, that's good stuff, and appreciate you sharing. Here's the deal. It's a blessing. See, that's what.
no doubt.
And what the wonderful thing about blessings is understanding that you're blessed, and giving praise to the big fella, and we're all fortunate for that.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
there are no accidents. Our lives are predetermined. Again, this is my opinion, my philosophical approach. They're all predetermined, and God has been good. And so, with that being said, it's almost time for us to close. Actually, it is time for us to close, but I got a couple questions I got to ask you.
And what it says, my mom used to put fear in us. She used to say all the time, "Don't turn a blessing into a curse."
There you go.
Yeah.
Because you can turn a blessing into a curse. And so that always stuck in my head because she make you afraid that we are blessed if we're allowed to be blessed. Yeah.
Well, hey, I think your mom did a great job, big fella. There's no question about that. So we're Breakfast with the Boys. Bottom line is that smorgasbord. We come here to grub. Well, I want to reach in and talk about a little bit of everything. We've had a chance to, and I want to get you back. I want to do some more because there's so much more I want to talk to you about. But I'm gonna go with you, Art, first. Okay, in terms of breakfast, what's your favorite breakfast when you were playing ball and now today?
When I was playing ball, I would say oatmeal, and today it's fruit.
Oh, come on, Art. Hey, Art, just because we on the air, you ain't gotta go like. Come on, man.
He looked good. Art looked good.
No, he holding getting better
No,
now.
it's always been fruit. It's fruit now.
Yeah, I got Dorsett. He's talking about I'm a grits and eggs guy. Drew was drinking drinks. Roger had 2 eggs, bacon, hash browns. So Larry, talk to me.
I'm with Roger. I think a good breakfast is nothing like some good scrambled eggs with some nice crispy bacon,
Right.
Yeah.
with a hash brown, and even a good waffle or a pancake. To me, that is a very obviously with fresh juice.
Yeah.
Nothing like fresh juice, fresh apple juice or fresh orange juice. To me, that's breakfast.
Yeah.
Hey, you guys are gonna have to hang on to get the real scoop from Mark because I know he eat a better breakfast than that. Because hey, I know better than
I
that.
say now.
And a little fruit, and a little small thing of fruit. So I'm putting them all together.
Wait, he's defensive lineman, right? He talking about.
Outside linebacker.
Okay, outside linebacker talking about, well, I had oatmeal, I had a glass of water. Come on, baby, you can tell somebody else that, right? All right?
Yeah, nothing like some good fruit. I think a combination of all of them. Like I'll have some fresh fruit, a little small bowl of fresh fruit, some nothing like good scrambled eggs and good bacon. Come on now,
And
that's
crispy bacon, too.
crispy
Can't-
bacon.
Can't be soft.
No, can't be soft. Gotta be
Big
crispy.
bacon, right?
Gotta be crispy. A little cheese and onion in that scrambled cheese. Yeah, I'm with Roger. I gotta have it all, and a nice good hash brown.
Talk about now. You're talking about before the game.
I was talking anytime with
Yeah,
you.
during
Art.
the game.
Hey, you come on. He gonna talk about oatmeal.
Yeah. Oatmeal.
We're gonna close after that. Hey, with that being said, hey, you all know better than that, and I know better than that. But this is Breakfast with the Boys. Boys. We had our boy Larry Brown. I had another guest, Art Cook. Hey, y'all are awesome, man.
Thanks.
Appreciate
Enjoyed
it.
it.
I'd love to have you guys back.
Enjoyed it. Thank you.
Bless. Thank you, man. Appreciate
Yep.
it.
Have you ever took a journey to the other side? Come on, take a ride. Have you ever took a journey? We gon' feel alive. You gon' feel